ESPR Boxing. We are back, myself and Paul Kelly, my compadre Paul Kelly here. We are back. We're in preview mode. A super teams previewing a super fight here, which we are down in the super flyweight division. Sorry, WBC World Super Flyweight title was taking place between Jesse Rodriguez and Juan Francisco Estrada. This is a delicious fight, isn't it, Paul? Obviously, it's one that's really exciting. Obviously, there's not too much you really need to say about Bam Rodriguez from a kind of tail of the tape kind of angle. Both these guys have been around for a little while, but a lot of hype obviously generated behind Bam, and obviously Estrada been in some massive sort of fights himself. So Paul, I'm actually going to get straight into it with a bit of a challenging question for you. Really, we touched there on obviously Bam Rodriguez, this guy who's had 19 fights, 19 undefeated. Recently, obviously beat Sonny Edwards. Obviously, Britain Sonny Edwards goes to this fight with Estrada, having obviously had other fights, Israel Gonzalez, Hernandez, names of that nature, Wagner, Quadras, all those sort of guys have gone through the motions. But I'm going to ask you really, Paul, do you think Bam, maybe not now, maybe in the future, or maybe now, depending on where you want to come, but do you think this is a future pound for pound number one?
Straight in, mate. Straight in. Put me with the
Straight in,
right
baby,
hand.
straight in.
Straight off the bat, off guard. My defense was letting me down there. Um, Mate, yeah. It's hard to. It's. Let's be honest. It's really difficult to call whether or not someone's going to be the single best pound for pound fighter on the planet. That being in the conversation for pound and actually being the number one, I think is two completely different things. I'll answer it in kind of two parts. Is he a future pound for pound top five, top 10? Yes, 100%. I actually don't think he's that far away from a top 10 pound for pound if he was to win this, for example. If maybe I've come on to it maybe later on, but if he was to win this, I wouldn't disagree if someone threw him in the pound for pound top 10 straight away, to be quite honest with you. Already. So in saying that, can he be a future pound for pound number one? Yeah, mate. Look at his body of work. He's 19 and 0. He's only 24 years old. He's already beaten Sonny Edwards, kind of like, that was being billed a bit of a super fight, quite close. And they're on a bit of a clinic, let's be honest, against Sonny Edwards. Carlos Quadras is a name on there already. Nobody really, well, not that many people had heard of Bam when he was a flyweight, stepped up to Superfly, where he's obviously back here now and beat Rungvisai. Like, what a victory that is as well. Um, yeah, I mean, he's already a two-weight world champion at 24 years old, albeit down in the lower weights, there's less of a jump. Yeah, to answer your question, is Bam Rodriguez a future pound for pound number one? I do not see why not. I think when you look at that current crop that people have at the top of, Crawford, Usyk, and Nue. Obviously, Crawford and Usyk are probably near in the latter stages of the career. We don't know about Nue. Um, after that, another few big wins. Bam, number one. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you say there, Paul. I actually totally agree with you. I think you must have to take it in two parts. I think being in the conversation is one thing, being the actual number one, clear number one is another. I think, yeah, I would say he's flirting with that sort of being in that conversation. He's sort of top 10 like at the moment. Maybe one or two more victories, pushing himself towards top five. I think the difference between maybe that and being number one is weights for me. It's like, you've got to kind of, you look at the other guys like Crawford, you look at guys like Inoue. I mean, obviously, Usyk as well, but obviously he's been up a couple of weights. But maybe guys around, obviously Canelo, we've seen him move through the weights as well. You're almost expecting Bam to have to go maybe one, maybe two divisions more and win belts there, maybe unify the division in some way as well, like that, unify another division maybe before you sort of look at number one. But I think he has the talent to do it. He's got the time to do it as well. I think if you look at those guys like Crawford, when they move on, Usyk hasn't really got that much longer left. I think Inoue is the one that maybe could stick around and give him obviously real problems for that number one. But yeah, I don't see a reason why he couldn't be in the sort of top sort of three, top five conversation. Definitely, to be perfectly honest with you, it's just a question of whether he moves through the weights and acquires more titles to maybe get to that point. But let's come on to this fight, Paul. Obviously, he's fighting Estrada. Estrada's obviously a guy who's had those fights, hasn't he? With obviously Chocolatito, and the last fight he actually had was against Chocolatito, that majority decision victory back in 2022. So the question I'll ask you really is: from his perspective, do you worry a bit about the sort of comparative lack of activity for him here, or do you still regard him as a really elite fighter? And obviously, it's a tough test for Bam in this fight.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, mate. I think if Strada was more active, I think he'd be in everybody's top 10 pound for pound, just because of that body of work, as you mentioned, beating Rungvisai, Chocolatito twice, and including the last fight, obviously that trilogy, as you mentioned, December 2022. Whether or not you think he won those fights, either way, they were so close. Um, and like some of the names he's beaten, and yeah, he's just incredible. Like Bam, he's 44 wins, 28 of those by stoppage, which is quite a lot for someone who's only down at 112, 115 pounds. You know, it's quite incredible. He's 34 now and hasn't fought in 18 months or at least. It's about 18 months. That's not good for me. That inactivity does worry me a little bit. But you're talking about an elite fighter in Estrada, so it wouldn't worry me as much as, you know, maybe it wouldn't worry me as much as some other fighters in the past. But then you hit the say in boxing, everyone has their day, and then people do get old overnight. You know, who's to say that it isn't Estrada hasn't got old overnight, and we'll find out on Saturday night at the Footprint Center in Phoenix. I really hope not, and I don't think that will be the case. But we just don't know. We haven't seen him in a ring in so long that it's really difficult to answer that question. So to answer your question, mate, I do still regard him as an elite fighter. Yes, I mean body of work, names, so all speaks for itself. But his inactivity also worries me. So I'm kind of agreeing with both things that you've asked me there. I do think his inactivity is a worry, but I do also still regard him as one of the best fighters in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's going to be a hell of a test for Bam to be honest with you. I do think it actually makes it more delicious, the inactivity as well, though. Like you come through those hard fights you mentioned, Estrada, like hard body work. And you look at obviously the fights with Chocolatito, but obviously going the distance there. We went the UD with Cortez in the middle of that as well. So this guy who actually last knockout was Quadras back in 2020. So then you read into that and say maybe he's not carrying the power, maybe he's turned off a bit, maybe not. I think you look at it, he's obviously been with world level opposition and come through that. So it's still for me an elite fighter. But the gap is what makes actually this so intriguing. When it comes down to predictions, Paul, again, not going to obviously do the thing and go first. I'm going to come straight to you, Paul, and ask you how you see this fight playing out. Do you see a stoppage for either man? Do you see it points? And if so, Paul, which way do you see it going?
Yeah, mate, I was really hoping that you were going to be chivalrous and take the reins there and give me your prediction first. But this is a real 50-50 in my opinion, even with the inactivity. I'm gonna go with Bam because I've seen him more recently. I'm gonna go with decision, but I'm gonna put it out there. Do not be surprised if Bam stops Estrada late. Just because of the inactivity and the age factor. What I'm going Bam points probably. I think he's looked even better now up at Superfly from before the Sonny Edwards fight. Clear to see he was never going to make 112 again. Up at 115 makes a difference to those guys down at those weights. And yeah, I think this could be another coming of age night for Jesse Bam Rodriguez. What about yourself?
Yeah, people may have seen me raise my eyebrows there, but it wasn't in the prediction. I actually going to go Bam as well, Paul. I think Bam on points. I'd be surprised if he gets a stoppage with Estrada. I think Estrada's still got enough, frankly, to see the distance. I think it'd be quite a close fight, but I see Bam edging it. So, yeah, you and I are actually in agreement here. I'm going to go Bam Rodriguez on points. There's no contention, obviously, in the video for this week, but guys, let us know what you think. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with myself and Paul. Also, really, where you see Bam maybe now as a future pound or in the future as a pound for pound fighter, and also whether you think Estrada, you notice, think Estrada's own activity may be troublesome, whether you think he might have slipped a little bit here. But obviously, check out the channel. We've obviously got other stuff. We have reviews from the fight as well. We've got big fight breakdowns take place for this fight as well. Other stuff on the channel, interviews of fighters on the cards. Check those out. Like and subscribe. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, and guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers, mate.